And I love that you said that. I always say, listen, it didn't define me, it refined me. And I truly
Sure.
believe that we can get better when adversity happens, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
just like anything else. I remind my son who's an avid like baseball and football player. I say, like, how many times do you have to practice before the game, right? It's not the actual game, it's all of the things that you have to do leading up to it.
Good evening, Erika Rothenberger in Pennsylvania, 3 hours ahead of me. Thanks so much for your time.
So glad to be here. I cannot wait to just get into this.
Yeah, I want to talk to you today, actually, the burning question of how do working moms stay genuinely connected to their kids without burning out or losing themselves in the process? And I think you have so much to say about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we have 6 hours for this
I know,
podcast,
right?
right? And
Well,
like an encyclopedia. What I want to remind anyone that's listening to this is before I even give you my answer is there's no perfect formula, and everyone's formula is going to look a little bit different. I'll tell you kind of what works for me, and maybe one of the two things may work for you, but remember that like there's no textbook. And when the baby came out, I never got a manual. Like, when you buy the new fridge, you get the manual, or the
yeah.
new dishwasher, and it tells you how to use it. Like with each child, and each child responds so differently too. And for me, what's worked really well is I say bullshit. I say balance is bullshit, because I really don't believe that life is ever like a perfect seesaw. And I don't think you ever balance being a mom and working and being an entrepreneur and taking care of yourself and doing date night and doing this. Like, so stop trying to figure out like that, this balance, and look at it more like integration. How can we integrate our children into our lives? How can we still make them part of it, but also make sure that we're not losing a piece of ourselves? And I think we saw so much of the generations previous to us. They absorbed so much into their family life and so much into their kids that all of a sudden the kids left. They were empty nesters. And I think a lot of them like really lost who they were from their identity. And I think we've learned a lot this next generation about, hey, listen, how to maintain that. And I really believe you can have it all. And when I say have it all, I want to be careful that it doesn't mean everything, but all that you want in your life at different times. And so I think it's really important that your kids are part of those conversations, they're part of those decisions. And I truly believe in quality over quantity. The times that you spend with them, and it's like anything else that you do in life. Like, how are you defending that time to make sure that when you are with your kids, you are totally devoted and with your kids? And when you're on a podcast, you're totally devoted and on a podcast, right? And then how can you make them part of it? Because I truly believe that kids learn so much more by following our actions than they do by anything that we say. They say that your child is 1,600% more likely to act up in front of you as the parent figure. But when they're watching your actions and they're seeing what you're doing, they start repeating behaviors. And I have a story for this. Story that when my son was 8, he's now 12, came to my husband and I and said, I want to start a business. And my husband and I are both entrepreneurial. We have a real estate business and I have a few other businesses. And what I will tell you is because he was watching us, I believe that this was instilled in him without us saying, hey, at 8 years old, you really should start a business. So lo and behold, we came up with all these different ideas. He said he wanted to be a pro football player. Obviously, at that age, we were like, you got to wait till you're at least 18. We don't want to ever squash a dream. But we said, what gives you purpose and passion? And lo and behold, we live on a golf course. He came up with a company called Hole in One. All winter long, he would go out, he would collect all the balls, he would wash them, he would clean them, he would sort them, and he would go sit outside of Tee Box 1 and he would sell them. 3 summers later, that child not only earned $6,000, but learned the art of rejection, learned the art of personalization, learned how to really build a business, what a return on investment was, and even so much so that he actually got into a program called Young Entrepreneurs Academy because of what his actions were. So I truly believe that's a perfect type of story that when they watch what you're doing, you're there to support them. They can truly be integrated, and then it can actually turn into something that actually becomes part of them too.
Okay, so tell me, let's go back to the first part about like this whole mom thing of being an entrepreneur, working full time, and still connecting with your kids. Like, we know the connection is the protective factor of mental health in children. All the research is showing that. And I just know so many moms that are having this such a challenging time to juggle the demands of work and
Yeah.
still being there for their kids?
Well, I think you have to set, like, I'll give you, I love stories, right? Stories are 22 times more powerful than any fact or stat I could give you. So, for instance, we just had Valentine's Day, right? And instead of giving them boxes of chocolate and a card that they probably were just going to recycle or throw away, I gave them each an experience. So one day on Saturday, my son and I went skiing together. And it was just the two of us, just on the mountain, just riding the chairlifts, just having those conversations, right? But I defended the time just like I would defend getting my hair done on a Saturday or going out with my girlfriends for brunch on a Saturday. It was my quote unquote date time with my son, right? Same thing 2 weeks later, I took my daughter loves art, right? We went to a studio on a Friday night and we did a painting together. And it was just the two of us for 2.5 hours, just using creativity, being together, doing something different, not in the house. The dishwasher didn't need to be empty. The dog didn't need to be taken out. And we were just together. So I truly believe, just like any other appointment, you have to make the time, and it takes effort, right? And that's where I go back to that quality versus quantity, right? Like, it doesn't have to be every day. You don't have to do a skiing trip or an art project every week. But how are you really spending that quality time with your children?
Erika, you're totally speaking my language, because I think that one-on-one time with each child is so important, but we have to be absolutely intentional about it. And maybe for some people, it's just going to be a lot cheaper of a outing that might be a picnic because of finances. But I think that kids love it. They love it because we're showing them that they're worthy to go spend time with them.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. So that was like a big deal because it was Valentine's Day, but like it could be as simple as, hey, listen, let's go on a walk together. Or, hey, listen, let's just read this book together, and be intentional for that 10 minutes. They will remember that so much more. Every once in a while too, and I'll give a parent tip here, that they love when I go and sit in the back seat with them. I know it sounds so silly, but like we go somewhere and instead of sitting in the passenger seat talking to my husband or being on my phone, I'll go sit in the back seat with them. And it's like, it's exciting for them. It doesn't cost you a penny, but it can be a 10-minute drive to basketball practice.
Right. Love it. That's totally, that is getting on their turf. That is the idea of, like, you're literally getting in their area of the back seat of the car. I hadn't thought of that one before. Like, I love it.
And the other thing is, I always ask them one of my favorite questions. And I was driving with a colleague the other day because I was on a business trip and I was checking in with the kids, and she reminded me, like, I don't even think twice about it anymore, but she actually brought it up a few days later in front of someone. And she was like, I thought it was so cool how Erika, and she doesn't have children, but she said, hey, Erika said to her kids in the car, who were you kind to today? Right? They couldn't answer yes or no. How was school? Good. What'd you do? Nothing. Right? Like, make them think about gratitude. Make them think about abundance. Like, let them know. And then when they tell you, I was kind to Johnny. Well, what did you do with Johnny? Well, I let Johnny borrow my colored pencils today during art, or whatever it is. Get them engaged and let them, like, figure out that you really want to know more about those details.
Right. So I love, okay, so there's big stuff, there's asking intentional questions. Can you get into, like, just those fine little moments in the nuances and the boringness of life at home, of those connections while you are super busy and working full time and maybe more?
Yes. I love this question. Okay, so this is really simple and really fun to do with your family. So this actually started because I have to give my husband the credit where credit's due. And I don't even know exactly how it started, but one day my daughter said, oh, it's 8/11. Now, she was born on August 11th.
Okay.
And my husband goes, it wasn't August at all. It was probably February. And he goes, happy birthday, Addie, right? Well, long story short, it started catching on. And now every time we see someone's birthday on the clock, regardless of what month it is, what day it is. So for instance, my husband's September 10th. So at 9/10, my son 7/22, my daughter 8/11, me 4/14, our dog 10/17. When we see that time on the clock, if we're with each other, we have a mini birthday party. Like, literally, it's like, happy birthday! And literally, like, it's just that moment of joy, reminding us that just that one little thing, how it can put you in a different mood, it can put you in a different mindset. And I know it may seem cheesy, but to our family, it's like actually kind of comical now. And my husband and I even do it now for our anniversary. When I see 9:22 on the clock, I'll say, we'll put happy A, right? And it's just our way of saying, hey, listen, I'm thinking of you today.
Right. Okay. So last question before we're going to move on. But what about stuff like they've had a bad day or the homework stuff or chores, like the connections within those moments?
Love that. And I love adversity. Like, and when I say that, like, I really believe that one of the best things we can teach our children is resilience, adversity, failure. That failure is not like means you're a failure. That failure actually is going to help build that muscle of resiliency. And again, unless we're using that muscle, unless we're growing it and working it, we're not going to get stronger. And with our children, I think so many times that they're being so sheltered in life in general or protected, you got to teach them failure. But I think it's really important to talk about the failure, bringing up your own examples of failure and also making sure you're helping them. And I remember just, the other day where my son didn't do so well on an English like language art test. And I told him about how I was in remedial reading from 1st to 5th grade. And I told him, like, listen, mom still went on to be an engineer and mom started several businesses, and like reminding them that like just because the outside looks okay, like that actually, and reminding them that actually made me stronger. That made me better, because if everything came easy, like, then what would you actually work towards? And so I think reminding them of your own failure, your own adversity, when they're stumbling, but also using it as an opportunity to have a lesson. Instead of reprimanding, having a conversation with them, treating them like they're young adults and actually engaging them, not lecturing them, engaging with them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I want to go back to, you said that women, we can have it all at different times. So Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In, came out about 12 years ago. And I've asked other women about this. What do you think of the concepts of being able to have it all, or when that is and what that means for us? And can you just kind of like define that a little bit more of what you said earlier?
Yeah, I think you can have it all, but not all at one time. So I think when you hear someone say have it all, you think, well, you got to be the mother and you got to work full time and you got to start your business and you got to be able to read and your skin needs to look great and you need to make it to the gym. Like, stop. Because like a confused mind does nothing, right? Like, and when we feel that we're setting ourselves up for failure, we will fail, right? By trying to put too much on our plate. And to me, it's really being intentional. And one of my frameworks actually talks about adding weight where it matters, but removing the weight where it doesn't serve you anymore. Where are you feeling dragged down? Where are you feeling like that weight is just almost holding you back like shackles? And what can you start saying no to? So my whole premise is being audacious and being bold and brave and all this sort of stuff. But sometimes audacity actually happens in the real quiet moments. When you set the boundary, when you say no, when you don't take the job that you thought that you were going to take, right? And not being afraid to say no, because maybe it's not your season and it's okay. It doesn't mean that it's never going to happen. It doesn't mean that season isn't coming. But I think when we set those intentional boundaries and we're willing to be audacious about sometimes not having it all, that actually is what actually builds us to be stronger.
Right, totally. My personal experience very much has been my career was on hold. Like I did a master's in administration back in 2004, and my little babies came and I said, forget it. There's no way I'm working 60 to 80 hour weeks is what it was. And I intentionally had to choose to put that on hold. So I was a teacher. I worked 2 days when they were little. I worked 5 days. They were at my school. When they were older, it was great.
Yeah.
But by the time, though, they're now at a university, say I was 50, I'm kind of washed up to get higher up if I wanted to become a superintendent, or I won't have the time to do it. So I had to intentionally choose one or the other in terms of advancement of career down the road. And I didn't want to do 60, 80-hour weeks with my children.
Yeah. And that's okay. Like, to me, that's an audacious action that you took, and you decided that was your choice for your own expansion to be that mom, where someone else may say, no, I need to take the job. Like, and we can't fault him or her for whatever decision that parent decides to make, right? Like, everyone's story is going to look a little different.
It is. So for the person that takes the 80-hour job, how do you be a mom in that?
And again, I think it's just like anything else. Like, being able to say no, like think about it. Like, do you really need to be working the 80 hours? Or are you over functioning in that role? I think you need to do some evaluation. And when you look at your calendar every week, I color code my calendar. Some of you, that might turn you off completely, but I really look at it, and all yellow is family stuff. And if I look at my calendar and like there's very little yellow on for the week, I'm like, okay, where can I put a half an hour? Where can I, intentionally say, hey, listen, I'm going to go and defend that time. Now, I know you can't always be at the kids' bake sale and you can't be the chaperone all the time. And I get that, right? But where can you find those extra 10 minutes to while your child's having breakfast in the morning to say, you know what, I may have to be at work a little bit late today so I can actually sit with them and make sure they know, because they may not see me tonight before they go to bed.
Right.
That happens with me a lot.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean I'm less than them. And then it's also making sure those check-ins happen, right? Like, luckily now, like, my kids are getting to the age where my son has a phone, and it's just sending him a random little text in the middle of the day. Hope your day is going awesome, right? Like, I'm thinking of you, I'm proud of you, whatever that may be.
Right. So let's go back to you a little bit. You are a keynote speaker. You're executive in the construction industry. You're a podcast host, entrepreneur. You wrote Audacious Expansion, and you're a mom of two. And you are a mom of two. You also survived a violent attack in 2022. And I was wanting to go to that in terms of how it maybe changed your mothering. So do you want to share whatever you want to share about that? But in how we use moments then that are difficult, brutal, destroying, and have that for our power and be a better mom. So kind of two questions within that.
I love this question. And just to give the audience a little bit of context there, back it was, a normal day. It was a day like any other, a day on June 16th of 2022 that I pulled into that office building, that I took that last sip of Himalayan sea salt water. And as soon as I opened my car door, there he was. You see, it was a man I had never seen before. I asked the man quickly, sir, can I help you? And within seconds, his fist hit my face. He grabbed me by the hair and he threw me to the asphalt pavement. He proceeded to punch me 4, 5, 6 more times. But at that point, I wasn't even counting. Felt like a rag doll and not a human. I did everything to fight, to spit, to scream, to try to get away. And his wrath, his 210 pounds over me as an ex-boxer and someone who had a history of rage, took over. And he proceeded to strangle me. And I thought that was going to be my last breath on earth. I thought it was going to be the last moment that I was going to be the mom to Drew and Adeline, the last moment that I would be the wife to Andy, the last moment that I could live what I thought was my big, bold, audacious life. And the story goes on, and I could fill you in with all the details, but that's the crux of it. And what I want to remind everyone is that that was my punch. But everyone listening has had a punch in their life. Perhaps it was by burnout. Maybe it was the bitter divorce you went through. Maybe it's the sick child right now. Maybe it was the parent you lost last month. The financial woes that keep you up at 2 a.m. Whatever it is, we've all had our punch. And so my punch is no different than your punch. It's just we've all had a different type of punch.
Sure.
But those punches can bring us to the ground. And there were so many people at the time. My kids were 6 and 8. They were with the sitter. My husband was in Kansas City. And you see, I didn't know if I was going to live or what my life was going to look like. And I will tell you, it was that moment, those 72 hours that were an utter blur, and the police and the detectives and the reports and the doctors and the nurses, that life, I really wanted to be that victim. And it was when I was actually home a few days later where I put that hooded sweatshirt on. It was the middle of June, and the tears are dripping down my face that's cut and broken, and just feeling so vulnerable to even be scared to be in my own backyard. And in that moment, it was the laughter of my children. You see, they were playing in the pool right next to me. And what I realized in that moment, that connection was my oxygen. Being their mom was going to make me go from being a victim to a survivor to a thriver. And in that, every punch does not happen that quickly. So if you've been in your punch for a while, please don't compare your timeline to my timeline. We all deal with punches differently in our lives. But what I want to remind you is that when you start to make it about someone else and you realize that your story can actually be the light for someone else, man, it made me change the way that I was a mom, made me change the way I was a wife. It made me change the way that I connected with people. It made me change the way that I didn't know if tomorrow would be the last day that I would be on this earth. And I needed to treat every day to that level. And what I didn't know also is that what I thought living that big, bold, audacious life, I was really playing small. I was really playing in my little hard hat and my steel toe boots and walking into suburbia, corporate America, and thinking like I was living this big, bold, audacious life. And what I realized is I needed to show my kids that life could be so much bigger. That what I was really playing was not the life that I truly wanted to live. And it wasn't until this punch happened that I actually started taking my life to a whole nother level. And it's been such a gift. A gift that I get to show my kids. I don't think I would have wrote the book or been a TEDx speaker or been, a top podcaster or been speaking on all these stages and sharing my message on social media if that punch hadn't happened. So how can you take your punch and turn it into purpose? How can you take your punch and turn it into passion? How can you take your punch and be there for other people because of it?
So how did that affect your mothering? Like, can you go a little bit? I know you talked about it a bit, but I mean specifically, how did that affect you only in the role as mom?
Yeah.
The empowerment is phenomenal.
What's that?
The empowerment for you is phenomenal in all these ways of your life, but just getting down to being a mom, what did that do just for that single role?
I think it just made me, again, their laughter just reminds me of those small moments and to be able to appreciate the little things that happen every day. So I started every day writing down 3 things that I'm so grateful for and being so specific, especially with my kids, that last night I got to read my daughter the Babysitter's Club book. And on page 18, I remember laughing at Samantha's outfit, right? Like being so specific so you start noticing more of that. I think being really intentional and being honest with your kids. I mean, obviously there were details that I kept my kids from, but I also did not hide them from what happened. And reminding them, like, I think we got brought up thinking like, oh, well, everyone's nice and trust people and everyone's good. And reminding our kids that the world can be a tough place, right?
Yeah.
My kids know my perpetrator by name, and they'll be like, oh, like when blank did that to you. And they know it. They've seen the pictures. And to me, some people would say I would have sheltered them and not told them that story till they were 18. I don't feel like that was what I wanted to do as a parent. I wanted them to understand that things can happen, but it's what we do with it.
Totally. You're going into my next question. I wanted to know, what did your kids absorb watching you since 2022, so into year 4 now of rebuilding your life with intention?
So much. I mean, so much. And when I say that, I don't mean to brag or boast. I mean, the good, the bad, the ugly. Like, they've seen me be vulnerable. They've saw me go to court 11 different times. Now, they weren't in the courtrooms. They've seen me fight for this law that I'm trying to change in the state of Pennsylvania. So yes, I think they've seen a mom who has been so passionate about wanting to make a difference, but reminding them that they have a purpose too, and that sometimes those hard things are going to happen. And so when they don't make a team or they don't get the grade on their test, bringing that back to them and relating it like, hey, listen, mom's had those setbacks too. And I think, so to me, the biggest gift has been the gift of resiliency and the gift of adversity. And I think going into the real world, there's so many kids that they don't learn that at an early age, not because the parent wants to not teach them that, but we all want to shelter and protect our kids. But sometimes if we protect them too much, then they go into the real world by themselves and life can be really hard, right? You don't get the first job. College doesn't go the way that it is. Like you're in a precarious situation, right? Like teaching them these lessons. And I think also knowing that we have some real tough, honest conversations with each other, and that I hope when they have a tough conversation that they have to have 5 years from now, 10 years from now, they know that they can pick up the phone and that I will be there to listen to them for that.
You know what I love about your story that is, I think, so great for all parents to hear is we all go through difficult times in one way or another. And I've always said what we go through our past does not define us, but it's defining. It's defining for how we're going to live our lives moving forward, how we're going to be treated, what we will and will not put up with, what we know we're worthy of. And your kids have watched you use the defining moment, and you're not defined from it. It's not who you are, but it has brought you through and made you stronger and allowed you to thrive. You've chosen to thrive.
And I love that you said that. I always say, listen, it didn't define me, it refined me. And I truly
Sure.
believe that we can get better when adversity happens, right?
Yeah.
Like just like anything else. I remind my son who's an avid like baseball and football player. I say, like, how many times do you have to practice before the game, right? It's not the actual game. It's all of the things that you have to do leading up to it.
Yeah, it becomes empowering. I think that so many parents come from so much trauma. And to be able to see, like, significant childhood trauma, that actually can be defining, and it can be your empowerment. And things that we draw on later as parents that we had no idea back in the moment of the adversity that we would use for parenting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the work that you do, Suzanne, like really thinking about like what actually happens at such a young age that's so formidable that like I always think
Dude.
about this, when you hear the fact of like what happens before age 7, I'm like, oh man, I was like, I've probably already messed up, like, you know what I mean? My kids, like, and when you say that, and I don't mean that with any discredit. I just, it's hard. It's hard to be a parent. It's
hard.
the hardest job I have.
Yep. And I've said parenting's not a pastime. It's not an afterthought. I worked with kids whose parents didn't really care, and I've seen the damage. Right. That's why my strongest point, we get on their turf, we connect with them, however that looks like, with whatever season of life we're in or choosing to do, because
Yep.
they need us. So Erica,
Can I just add one more thing in there too?
yes,
It's like, so
yes.
what I recognized when I went through this trauma, so that was my punch, but it wasn't the first punch that I had. It was just the most visible and the loudest one that I had had. But what I
Sure.
realized is that as a child, there was a lot that I had repressed, that I had pushed away, that I had forgotten about. And I remember going to my first therapist, and she made me draw a house. And I was so angry because I'm just trying to like get my life back together. And she's like, here's a piece of paper and let's draw a house. And she made me draw the basement. And it was dark, it was dingy, it was scary, and there was lots of boxes in it. And what she related that back to is that was actually symbolic of my past, like all the stuff that I just wanted to stuff away, forget about. But like any trauma in our life, it will find its way out. It will
Right.
rear its ugly head. It's like water. It's going to find its way out. So it's how you want to deal with it. It's either going to envelop you or envelop around you, or you have to deal with it face on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's often people deal with it face on when they have their own kids, and they're like, shoot, I don't want to repeat this. I want to flip the script. I want to do better. And I've spoken to many that's when it really takes root to work through it.
Yep.
For sure. Okay, I always do 3 wrap-up questions to take us back to this whole thing of like how we connect with our kids as busy moms. So here's number 1. So for any mom who is getting home after a long day of work and just worried that, they're going to lose their kids one day, what is the single most important thing that she can do tonight with whatever energy she has left to get on her kids' turf?
Oof, man.
But I'm
Well,
like in that moment of the gross and the busy and the long day, and you get home to your kids.
I'll say is like add a little bit of fun. Do something, whether it's that little 30-second birthday party I was telling you about before, whether it's turning on the music, whether it's saying, hey, listen, let's get the ice cream out and have a mini ice cream party. Like, just bring these small little pockets of joy and realize how quickly 30 seconds, 90 seconds of joy, it will change the demeanor of your children. No matter how heavy the day has been, no matter what bills are piling up, how many dishes are in the sink. Every once in a while, I'll do that in the morning, especially on a Friday morning. I'll put like something, I'll, tell Siri to put something on. And I just have like a little mini like dance party, and it makes me feel better. It makes them feel better. And it's like, okay, listen, it doesn't need to be these big gargantuous things. It can be these small little things. It's the consistency, though, that 1% in your day that can just change the trajectory. And I guarantee you, when you ask your kids 5 days from now, they're going to remember like mom dancing around the kitchen for 30 seconds, right? Versus, hey, she was upset because there was dishes in the sink.
Okay. Here's question. Thank you. Question number 2 is so the mom's exhausted carrying everything. What would you want kids to understand about what their mother is doing for them? With the larger question then is, what can we communicate to our own kids to let them know where we're at? So what do the kids need to know about mom? And then what do we communicate with them about us?
I think understanding about just as much as you ask them about your day, get them into that you have enough of a conversation that they ask you about your day. And
Right.
if it was a hard day and if it was a heavy day, they don't need to know all the details, but you can explain that to them. And I think by them knowing that, they realize that I think think we go to work and we have these fun, juicy lunches and we sit in these fun conference rooms and, everything's all glitz and glam. And I think reminding them that work is hard and it can be heavy. And it's just having real life conversations with them about that and expressing that to them. And the days that it really does, it's vibing great, tell them those days, but also let them know that there's days that it's really challenging. And maybe there's an example you can bring up to them. Hey, listen, I had a meeting that was really hard. My boss asked me to do this big assignment. Have you ever had an assignment like that where your teachers come in science class and you have that and relate it to their life a little bit too, so they can be oh, I get it, right? So there's not this huge disconnect.
Okay, thank you. Question number 3. For the working mom trying to juggle everything, what is the one single thing, the only one most important single thing you'd want to tell her about being a parent?
Start with yourself. Honestly, and my mom, it's in my book, Audacious Expansion. My mom always said to me, life is like a triangle. And at the top of that triangle needs to be you. And even though you think that's selfish, you need to invest in your health, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. Find those 5 or 10 minutes to invest in you every day. And then comes your family, and then comes your career or your job or your entrepreneurship. And every once in a while, that triangle is going to fall over, and every once in a while, the triangle is going to get out of form, and it's not going to look like a triangle, it'll look more like an amoeba. But
Right.
all in all, if you can keep those points very designated, because if your health and your mentally, spiritually, emotionally isn't okay, you're no good to your family. And if your family's not okay, you're really no good to your career. And if you try to keep that in check, you will go down the right path.
I like that triangle idea and it's shifting, but trying to define the 3 though. I really like that. Yeah, it's really good. And putting on our own oxygen masks. Key.
Yep.
Is
Not always easy, and you don't have to wear it all day.
Right.
But reminding yourself,
Right.
when is that devoted time?
Yeah.
For me, it's first thing in the morning. I'm a very early riser, but I know if I don't have that time to myself in the morning, I don't show up as the type of parent that I want to.
Yeah, me too. I'm the same, especially when my kids were younger. They're kind of older now and more independent, but especially I had a 20-year period, particularly my first priority in the morning after my own quiet time had to be my kids, whatever that looked like. So it still has to be a priority. I still check in, but they want to be. Well, my daughter's at another university anyways. Okay, Erika Rothenberger, where can we find you?
Oh my goodness. Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. I would love to connect with you, especially on LinkedIn. Love putting content out there. You can grab a copy of my book. And every year in October, we have an Audacious Woman Summit that I would love to invite any of your guests to. That's outside of Philadelphia. 180 audacious women coming together, just next leveling with each other.
I saw that.
Love to have you. So
Well,
maybe you'll have to come to Philly in October.
There you go, from British Columbia. I will put all of that in the show notes, by the way.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you so much for your time, Erika.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for joining Get on Their Turf. Now, I want to spark a connection movement, and you can be part of this by sharing this with a parent who wants to learn more how to connect with their kids in the midst of crazy work. And if you want practical ways to start tonight, you can get my free guide at drsuzannesimpson.com. Let's continue exploring connection in every way. And until next time, let's lead with presence. Thanks for listening.